Thank you for joining us. My name is BJ Murphy. I am publisher of Neuse News and NeuseNews.com. We're hosting a series of candid interviews to help you, our readers, be more informed as we head into the 2020 general election on Tuesday, November 3rd. And just so you know, early voting does start on October 15th. But make sure you stay with us on Tuesday, November 3rd. We will have, as always, our annual election night results show starting live right here on Facebook at 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday, November 3rd. Today we are joined by Representative Chris Humphrey, who is running to retain his seat in the North Carolina House. The district covers Lenoir County and portions of southwestern Pitt County. Thank you, Representative Humphrey, for being here today.
Good to be here, BJ. Thank you.
So tell us, why are you running to retain your seat?
Well, BJ, we ran the first time 2 years ago, and I tell you, when you get elected as a freshman, you're drinking water from a fire hose. So there's a lot of unfinished business. I mean, obviously, we left the General Assembly without a budget. I thought we had a very responsible budget that we put forth. It was a bipartisan budget, and of course, it was vetoed. And we overrode the veto in the House, but the Senate just couldn't muster the votes to override it. So there's a lot of good things that we're trying to get accomplished here in Eastern North Carolina. The Brody School of Medicine wasn't funded. The Aden commercialization project wasn't funded. The schools, there's a bond discussion to help revitalize our schools in Lenoir County and Pitt County, and multiple highway projects and that sort of thing. So there's some unfinished business that I want to fight for the folks of this district.
And let's talk about the budget for a second. When you mentioned the budget a while ago, that was a budget that happened last year, right?
That's correct.
And that's part of the biennium budget. So thinking of COVID and all the other things happening with us now, what do you think should happen with the budget? Are there any cuts or adjustments that you think need to be made? What are some of your priorities when it comes to the budget?
Well, we'll get our estimated revenue numbers sometime this month. Mm-hmm. And once we get those, we can better identify where we're going to have some challenges. Excuse me. And so we were looking at like a $5 billion deficit. So in our rainy day funds and our savings and some other unspent unencumbered monies, we had set aside about $5 billion. So we were in pretty good financial shape. Obviously, you don't want to spend down all the money you've set aside for rainy day events because we know there's going to be hurricanes and other catastrophe, natural disasters and that sort of thing. But so I think we planned pretty well. I don't expect many cuts. There will be some. We're hoping we can retain jobs. I mean, that's going to be important. That'll be a priority of this General Assembly, is to try to retain as many jobs and maybe not fill some unfilled positions. But I think we'll be in fairly good shape. But the economy's looking better. The outlook is looking better than expected. So revenues are up. I think I heard recently they're up over last year already, same time. So maybe it won't be as bad as we had initially thought. Mm-hmm.
Well, and let's talk a little bit about an issue that is near and dear to our area, being rural Eastern North Carolina, and that's broadband internet. Yeah. What would you do to actually increase access to broadband internet here in the rural areas?
Well, the broadband issue came to light, especially during the pandemic when schools shut down and parents had to keep the children home and try to help them learn online. So we know there's a big challenge. Now, the General Assembly set aside, several $1 million to help get broadband out to rural communities. That's one of our biggest challenges in rural North Carolina is lack of dependable broadband and internet. But we know we've got some grants out there. We've got some other monies that are going to help companies expand their services. Obviously, these companies have to make a profit. I mean, they have to make money to be able to expand service, or they can't survive. So the state has stepped up. We put our money where our mouth is. It'll be hard to cover every single person, but that shouldn't be a question. I mean, really, if you have electricity coming to your house, I think you should have broadband coverage. And so we're working with partners to extend that out into the rural communities.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the COVID, especially when it comes to schools. How do you feel about the talk about reopening North Carolina schools, and also about how that impacts high school sports and college sports?
Yeah, it's been a tough decision initially. I understand that. We kind of know where the hot pockets are. We kind of know now what remedies we can take to keep the virus from spreading, and I think we've been pretty well educated on how to do that. I think closing schools doesn't help our children in North Carolina. I think we need to take a concentrated, a fine-tuned approach to reopen. But just to shut them down and not even consider opening schools, to me, is a little bit short-sighted. We know that elementary school students can't stay home and stay focused enough to learn online. And those families have broadband and internet challenges. So we know when they go to school, they eat. I mean, students get well fed, they exercise, they're more sociable, their mental aspect is clearer. I think we're just hindering our kids by leaving them at home. And you've got parents that have to work. I mean, you have single parent households that, I mean, they don't have the luxury of staying home and helping their kid through a class online. So there's several challenges. I think we're starting to move in the right direction by reopening schools. I have a high school age daughter who was, devastated by the fact she couldn't play volleyball this fall, but she understands it. But she's ready to get back out and be with her friends. I mean, she told me the other day she hasn't really exercised much. I mean, when you go to school, you do stay active and you eat better and all that good stuff, as I mentioned. So, I think it was probably the right thing to do to maybe postpone fall sports for a few weeks and football moving to the spring. I mean, it's not a bad thing. So I just think students are ready to get back on the field. Parents are ready for their kids to get back in the classroom, and teachers are ready to go back to work. I know there's some concerns, but for the most part, everybody's ready to get back to some sense of normalcy.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk. Think about this election year. This Tuesday, November 3rd, is a presidential election. Got a governor's race, NC Senate, NC House, U.S. Senate race here in North Carolina, as well as some local races. There's been a lot of discussion over the last several years, even some legislation passed, constitutional amendments passed related to voter ID. Where do you stand on voter ID in terms of being enacted here in North Carolina?
Yeah, I mean, I've always supported voter ID, and I think the legislation that was passed and that the voters in North Carolina overwhelmingly supported was a common sense piece on the ballot. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're going to make sure that those who can access IDs have access to them at no charge. This notion that we're trying to disenfranchise voters is as far from the the facts of the matter as you can get. I mean, we all know you got to have ID to purchase a pistol, to cash a check, to open a banking account. So I think it's common sense. And most North Carolinians agree with that. There's some that think it's being used to hinder some voters, but that's not the case. We just want our elections to be fair. We want them to be we want them to be right whenever someone casts their ballot. We don't want to have to worry about someone voting for someone else or dead people voting and that sort of thing. And while there may not be as much fraud as maybe initially thought, we just got to make sure our elections are when it's all said and done, that people feel confident in the outcome. All
right. Well, speaking of outcomes, give us a closing statement from you. Why should people support you? What are some things you want the voters to know about you as we close today's interview?
Well, I was raised right here in Lenoir County, and been here all my life pretty much. I have a small business here. My kids went to public school here, and I'm the kind of type of legislator or politician, as some may say, that I try to help everybody. Anybody I can help. Now, there's some things we're not going to agree on 100%. You don't agree with your spouse 100% of the time, but I ask people to reach out if I can help them. We have helped hundreds of people with the unemployment dilemma that many of our citizens here have faced, having trouble getting through or getting answers. And, I don't ask folks where they're from, who they voted for, how they're registered. We've even helped some out of county. And but that's the type of person I am. I want to be accessible. My job is to look out for the citizens of this district, no matter if you're black, white, if you live in town, in the county. That's just the way I've been raised. And it's unfortunate that things have gotten so politicized now, and there's just a lot of friction going on out there. But look, I'm pro law enforcement. I've been endorsed by the North Carolina Troopers Association, the Police Benevolent Association. I don't believe in defunding the police. I don't believe in reallocating funds. I believe our brothers and sisters in blue need more funding, not less. I mean, they're out there every day for little or no pay. I mean, it's really sad what they do get paid, but we've got some challenges. Maybe we need some education. There's no question about that. But I think for the most part, law enforcement officers are good people. There's going to be bad people, and there's bad preachers, there's bad insurance agents, there's bad politicians. But for the most part, people are good. And but I want to be here to support law and order, and to make sure that we get our fair share. The big cities like Charlotte and Raleigh, they've got the population, they've got the money, they've got the nice new schools. So I'm here to work hard to bring back what we deserve. I mean, because we work, we pay taxes too, and that's what I'll always try to do.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Representative Humphrey, for coming on. And want to remind everybody that you have the right to vote beginning October the 15th is early voting, and certainly Election Day is on Tuesday, November 3rd. I also want to say a special thank you to everyone who's watching this broadcast. But make sure that you bookmark in your calendar Tuesday, November 3rd at 7:30 p.m. As Neuse will bring, I believe this will be our third annual, although we've done some other special election and general primary election coverage results shows, but this will be at least our third annual general election results show live on Tuesday, November 3rd at 7:30 right here on Facebook. And also want to make sure that if you go to neusenews.com, be sure to subscribe to our newsletter. And also, if you want those breaking news text alert, anytime there's breaking news happening in our backyard, if you want to get access to that text alert from Neuse, simply just text the keyword NN to 484848, and you'll be on our list. Again, thank you, Representative Humphrey, for joining us today.
Thank you, BJ.
All right, have a good day. And thank you all so much. Stay tuned for more from our candidate interviews for the 2020 general election.